Taking a live look here as the stock market closing for the day about an hour ago after this huge surge. A big response following President Trump's announcement hours ago of that 90-day pause on his reciprocal tariffs on most of the country's biggest trading partners. As you can see there, the Dow up nearly 3,000 points. The Nasdaq Composite jumped about 12.2%, and the S&P 500 soaring 9.5%. The president's 10% baseline tariff on nearly all global imports will remain in place. But at the same time here, President Trump also revealed that he is raising the tariffs charged to China to 125%. That is going to be effective immediately. I do want to bring in Edward Lawrence with Fox Business Network, joining us now live to discuss all of this. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us.
Thanks, Josh. And I do want to point out that the Dow closed with the largest daily point increase in history. So that was a history-making day that we saw today.
For sure. And I was going to ask you about that because I know the numbers, I mean, they're soaring. We're talking up nearly 8% after we saw several days of the Dow kind of plummeting after the first announcement. What do you make of all of that overall as you see this record-breaking day?
Well, I think the market was looking for good news, and that was clear in any of the good news that came out that was trying to get into the positive territory. So the markets really wanted to hear progress on tariffs or trade negotiations with other countries, or a pause like we got today. So the president, as you said, paused on on the reciprocal tariffs, and then he added 125% tariffs on all goods from China coming into the United States. The reason China's been singled out, according to the Treasury Secretary, is because China is the only country that did not come to the U.S. and try and negotiate. We had more than about 75 countries, according to the president in the Oval Office minutes ago, about 75 countries that have come to the U.S. to bring prices, to bring the tariffs down and work on getting rid of those non-tariff barriers, which is big for this administration. But it was China that did not, so he singled out China here and basically isolated them in the global marketplace.
And speaking about that overall, again, he revealed that he's raising the tariffs charged to China to 125%. Right. What are the potential implications here as we look further into that? And could we kind of see this back and forth just keep going between the U.S. and China?
Well, that depends on China. So the president said don't retaliate. China retaliated. And again, starting tomorrow, there will be 84% tariffs on U.S. imports going into China. That's their retaliation. The president basically, doubling it, going to 125% at his level from Chinese goods coming into here. The implication is that people will buy fewer things from China, that companies will move supply chains. We've already heard Walmart come out and say that that only 10%, a lower portion of their goods comes from China, and they're looking for other areas to try and find those. Amazon came out and said that they're going to pause some shipments from China because of those tariffs and possibly look for other supply chains. So the gain would be other countries possibly in that region or other countries that have manufacturing. The loss is Chinese manufacturers, because there is almost no way for China, the government of China, to help make up the difference with a tariff of 125%. In the past, when President Trump added tariffs to China, before this recent announcement a week ago from Liberation Day, China was under a 20% additional tariff, and there was basically no price increases because the companies either aided up the currencies, manipulated a little bit from the China side in order to make the cost less, and the Chinese government helped out through subsidies those manufacturers. You just can't make up 125%. So China is really going to feel this impact a lot.
When we talk about the pause that Trump did announce really just hours ago here, are there specific sectors, industries that stand to maybe benefit more than others from the actual pause itself?
Yeah, maybe not sectors, but industries themselves. I mean, manufacturing, other countries will benefit because of this. So a lot of trade and textile, specifically textiles, has moved to Vietnam out of China. And that happened during COVID when the Chinese had all those lockdowns with one COVID patient, and it was causing disruptions in the supply chains. So companies moved to Vietnam. You're going to maybe see that expand, as Vietnam actually is the first country that is getting some negotiations, some talks today. The Treasury Treasury Secretary, saying today he's meeting with the representatives from Vietnam to possibly lower tariffs. And they've also signaled in Vietnam they were going to lower the tariffs from the United States, from goods from the U.S. going into Vietnam. So you're going to see other countries that have manufacturing that are really going to gain from this, and possibly companies could potentially remove supply chains out of China, eliminating that country altogether and building them in other countries, and that would be the real benefit for those other countries.
All right. Edward Lawrence there with Fox Business. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. Appreciate it.